Hi, my loves, and welcome back to I'm On Your Side with me, your host, Sierra Boudreau. This is our 21st episode, and I meant to talk about this during our 20th episode because that feels kind of like a really big milestone and something to celebrate, but I completely forgot that it was our 20th episode until I was editing it, and I was like, oh, wait, I was supposed to say something about this. So this is our 21st episode, so I'll say something about it now. I have been thinking a lot about this podcast and what it means to me and what it means to you guys and what it's grown into. And when I started this in the beginning of the year, I don't think that I realized how much I was going to love it. I think that I had a lot of anxiety surrounding the start of the podcast because it felt like another thing that I was going to have to commit to in another way that I could disappoint you guys if it didn't feel right to me. And I went back and forth on starting it, and I pushed it off. And then eventually I sat down in front of the camera, in front of the microphone, and I just started speaking. And it clicked for me. This is exactly what I meant to do, just connecting with you guys in a long form way where we can talk through topics and dive into things deeper, and you guys can get to know me and I can respond to the things that you guys are saying. And so this medium really has grown into my favorite corner of the internet, which I don't know that I was expecting. And it's maybe one of those things where you know that you're on the brink of something really, really good and really, really special. So you put it off because you know that it's going to change you in some way, or change your life in some way, or change your mindset in some way. And it's really easy to get comfortable with the way things are because it's just easier to settle into things and start something new. And I had that feeling when I thought about the podcast, just that something was going to change and this is going to be something incredible for me. And it's not even about being this huge commercial success and having 1 million listeners and being picked up by, a podcast company and any of that. It's not really about that, which those are things that I do want one day and things that I am working towards. But if I am just waiting until that happens for this to feel special, then I'm missing out on so much joy that I can experience right now, where it is right now, because it will never feel exactly like this again. You know what I mean? I think that things are constantly changing and shifting, and I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm evolving, and the things that I want to talk about are going to change, and the things that you guys want to listen to are going to change. And hopefully the beauty of it is that we get to grow together. But like I said, that means it'll never be exactly like this. And I don't want to look back at this one day and wish that I held on to this a little bit longer and wish that I appreciated it a little bit more before it changed and shifted and became something else. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm appreciating it and taking the time just to express my gratitude that you guys would continue listening to it and loving it. And every time you guys DM me about it or share it on your stories or leave a review, it means so much to me because you're affirming this really, really deep heart dream that I've had for so much of my life. I would say for all of my life, is to be doing exactly this. And when you guys are willing to tune in and share and care about it, it just makes me feel like I'm on the right path. And when I worked in corporate, I was talking to a friend about this the other day, that when I worked in corporate, I would complete tasks, I would do my job as I was supposed to do it. Sometimes I would excel, sometimes I would just do the bare minimum. It depends on the day. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But even when I did something great, and even when I got praise for it, it never really landed with me. It felt like, this should feel more substantial and I should be really excited about this praise, but I'm not. I just kind of feel like I'm accepting the praise and of course expressing my gratitude for it, and then I'm moving on to the next thing, and none of the things that I was doing was leading to fulfillment, and it was really draining for me because I was exerting so much time and so much energy into this company and into this job, and not even one particular company, not even one particular job. I'm talking about the entire duration that I worked corporate. I never really felt deeply connected to what I was doing, even when things were exciting and things were changing. I just never really fully bought into the vision of where I was because I knew that it wasn't exactly what I was meant to be doing, even though it gave me a great resume and a lot of really good experience and fun friendships at the time. It gave me a lot. It just wasn't exactly what I was meant to be doing. And so the praise fell flat. But when I'm recording the podcast and I'm listening to you guys and you guys DM me and you say, this part of the podcast really helped me, or it really stood out to me, or I love this week's episode, can we dive more into this? Whatever it may be, whenever you guys reach out in any capacity and you affirm what I'm doing, it lands and it really, really sticks. And I never want you guys to think that is lost on me. It truly, I hope will never be lost on me how special this community is and how special it is that I get to do what I'm doing. Back on the topic of praise, I was at my esthetician yesterday. I was getting a facial, and I go to Heyday. If you live in Denver, I go to Heyday on Tennyson. I love them. I see Kaylee. I think that she's incredible. So if you're looking for someone, then I really highly suggest Kaylee at Heyday Denver. This is not an ad, and that read kind of like an ad, the way I like repeated the name repeatedly. Obviously, that's what repeatedly means. But as I said the name repeatedly, it just sounded kind of like an ad. It's not an ad, I swear. I just really love my facials there. I have the membership. And so I go and I keep seeing the same woman. Her name is Kaylee, and she is incredible. And I don't want to share too much of her story in case, people are always connected. You never know how they're connected, but people are always connected. But I see a lot of my younger self. She's only a couple years younger than me. She's 22, I'm 25. But I see a lot of my 22-year-old self in her. And I think that she has, even so, much more wisdom and just a better grasp on life than I did at that time. I think at that time I was just starting to shape my life and mold it and fully be on my own side, but I think that she is a little bit more advanced than where I was, and so it's really beautiful to see, and we have great conversations. But yesterday we were talking, and she said that something I said in our last session really resonated with her. She said she'd been carrying it around with her for a month, and it really meant a lot to her, and it helped her make some decisions. And when she said that, I was like so stunned, I think, because it's even different when you receive messages like that through a screen, and it doesn't really feel as personal as when someone is actually saying it to your face and you're making eye contact and you can see what it really means to them. And I made a joke and I was like, well, Kaylee, thank God, because that's actually my life's work. And I think that's the first time I ever really acknowledge that what I'm doing right now is my life's work, that this is what I hope to be doing for the rest of my life, that this doesn't feel like a phase for me or a stop for me. This feels like what I want to do and what I want to continue to expand upon and build and make into something so great and so special, not only for myself and my own goals, but for you guys too, to take with you and have it help you and guide you and just make you feel a little bit more seen, valued, loved, all of those things. And so I realized yesterday that this really is, my life's work, and the fact that I get to do it and be where I am in my career at 25, it is so important to me, and I'm so thankful for it. And so I wanted to start off the episode just talking about that because it's what's been on my mind, and I just sometimes feel like I'm in shock because I was talking to a friend the other day. We were doing our FaceTime, those long distance friends that you have where you catch up once every month and a half, 2 months, and you just spill and spill and spill, and it feels really good for the heart, and you feel really connected, and it's just a beautiful experience because it reaffirms that you don't need to be seeing someone every day or multiple times a week for that friendship to stand tall, and you don't need to constantly be in each other's immediate orbit for that relationship to mean something. So I was on FaceTime with one of my good friends, and we were having a really great conversation, and I was telling her that lately I've been feeling really connected to my college self. And for a lot of my life, I've been trying to find that connection and that closeness with my inner child. And when I think inner child, I'm thinking, 5 to 7 years old, very young, very impressionable. And, sometimes it skews older, sometimes it skews younger, but really that's the sweet spot of where I'm trying to connect. And then my high school self is also a version of myself that I try to feel connected to because I think that there are so many qualities I had when I was a teenager that I loved and adored about myself that I want to bring back. I think that I engaged in a lot of play and a lot of joy and a lot of freedom of expression, which was really just the culture of the people that I was around. It was really beautiful. And while there were obviously very hard times in high school, and while emotionally I was kind of out of whack because I was a teenager and I also had undiagnosed bipolar disorder and undiagnosed ADHD, there's a lot going on in my mental hemisphere. But as for my personality, I really did love who I was and who that allowed me to grow into. That said, I've been feeling lately really connected to my college self because I distinctly remember, I was telling the story on FaceTime and I want to share it with you guys. I distinctly remember I was a Chi Omega in college and we were sitting in the lodge. We didn't have a house at UNT. We had a lodge for various reasons. And that part doesn't really matter. I was just giving you context. So we were sitting in the lodge and we had the speaker come. She worked for Chi Omega Corporate and she was a national advisor, I think is what it was called, or like a leadership consultant, something like that. I'm forgetting the name exactly. But she would tour around to different campuses and talk about Chi Omega. She would talk about what leadership meant. She talked about instilling our values and all of that stuff. So it was more than just like you're in the sorority, you're paying for a group of friends. It was actually, you were supposed to be learning something and taking something from the experience. And so they came every year. And the year that I'm talking about, there's this woman, and I really connected with her because at the time I was quite religious. And I'm not sure how many of you guys listening are religious or will know exactly what I'm talking about, but there is kind of a language that is really deeply ingrained in Christianity, just some words that you use, and I even still find myself using them from time to time, but the words that you use, mannerisms that you have, syntax and things like that just screams, I am a Christian. And so I picked up on her using this language, and after she was giving her presentation, I went up to her and I was like, hey, I hope I'm not overstepping, but I just really get the feeling that you're a Christian and I want to talk to you about some things. If you have some time to sit down and get together. And she was so excited about it. She was like, absolutely, we can sit down, we can get together. Whatever you need, how about tomorrow? So the next day I go back to the lodge and we sit in this room together, and she was like, okay, tell me about yourself. And I told her, I said, I have this dream or this feeling, this thing that I really want to do where I want to connect people and I want to help them feel known, and I want to share my experiences in a way that means something to people, and it's all about community and it's all about relationship, but I don't really know where to start, but that's what I want to do. And she and I were workshopping it, and she had me write, or not even had me write, she helped me write this mission statement. And usually a mission statement is kind of something that you write when you're a little further along in the process. We wrote this mission statement when I didn't even really have a concrete name for it. I really didn't even know what it was going to look like. I didn't know how I was going to start it. I just knew that it was this really big heart dream that I had. And when I say heart dream, I mean something that feels very innate to me, something that I've always carried with me. I don't really know the inception of it. I just know that it's always been around, always this thing that I've wanted to do. And so we sit down and we write this mission statement and we read it back, and she's like, okay, so let's get started. And she really encouraged me. I had a YouTube channel in college and nothing really became of it, but she encouraged me to start it and to speak on it. And she encouraged me to share more of myself on the social media platforms that I did have, like Instagram. And so I used to do this thing on Sundays called Sunday Rambles, where it was very Christianity based, but I would be reading scripture. And then I would get on Instagram stories and I would just like talk about what I read, and I would talk about what's on my heart. What's on my heart is like very much a Christian thing to say. As you can see, I'm like tuning back into that version of myself. But I would talk about the scriptures, and I would talk about how I was feeling about them, and I would relate them to different experiences that I had and what experiences I was living through, blah, blah, blah. And people watch them, but not in any, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people watch them to make fun of me, and I'm sure a lot of people watch them just because they were on stories, and I'm sure like 5% of people watch them because they were actually interested in what I had to say. It didn't really matter. All I cared about was getting it out there, and I felt no shame and no embarrassment around it. I just was so happy to be doing it. And so I did that, and I just have been thinking about this woman and how much she influenced and believed that I could just be who I said I wanted to be, because I carried this passion and this excitement and this eagerness with me, and I was willing to share it with her. And in return, she gave me belief, and she gave me comfort, and she gave me encouragement. And that really, I think, shaped so much of the trajectory of my lives, more so than I could even realize or imagine until I was talking about this on the phone with my friend the other day. And it's like, if I didn't have somebody at that age telling me they believe that I could do it, and not only could I do it later down the line, but I could do it right now, I don't know that I would have kept going. I don't know that I would have really chased it. I mean, I would like to think that I would, because like I said, this is something I've carried with me, and I was always going to end up doing it in some capacity. But I think that starting it in college gave me the confidence to continue doing it after college. I think that had I not already had experience putting myself out there and knowing people were going to make fun of me, I think that TikTok maybe would have felt more uncomfortable. You know, a lot of people say they get on TikTok and they are like afraid to post their videos or share things or whatever because people are going to see it. And it's like, yeah, people are going to see it, and so what? People are going to see it, and if they care, they care, and if they don't, they don't. And it really, at the end of the day, you have to do what makes you feel good. Like we talked about all last week. In case you missed last week's episode, it's all about doing the things that you want to do and not worrying about spending your life worried about somebody else's 5 minutes of gossip. If you want to catch up on that, it's there for you. But because I had that experience in college and didn't really care what people were thinking, it just made it so much easier to get on TikTok and share, and then thus became my life, and that became my life life's work. And that became what I'm doing right now. And so I've been making a mental note to reach out to that woman. I still have her number and of course have her on Instagram. So to reach out to her and just like express my gratitude, because I really do think that her belief absolutely changed me and helped shape me into the person that I am. And for that, I am so thankful. I don't even know when this story started. I don't know how I ended up here, but that's just something I've been thinking about. And I wanted to share it with you guys because you never know how much your simple belief or your curiosity or your encouragement can mean to someone and what they can make of it. You just never know. And so when you're DMing someone and you're like, love this, or when you're sharing something and adding your own commentary, or when you're liking things, just things like that can mean so much to people. And I know that sometimes when we think of influencers, we think these like disconnected, far off people who live in their own bubble and you're just an observer and they are just receiving your praise. And that's what it can feel like sometimes when you're sending these likes and leaving these comments and sending these DMs and then you're not getting responded to. It can feel like, oh my God, do they not give a fuck that I exist? And half the time it's probably because they don't see it, and half the time, whatever, people have their reasons. But you just never know when that could land in somebody's inbox at the right time and shape their life. You just don't know. And so I just wanted to thank you for all the times that you guys have landed in my inbox at the right time. And it has continued to shape my life. All the times that you guys have pressed follow and it has shaped my life and all of that. And so now that we have done 20 minutes of being extremely sappy, we can get into the rest of it. I'm not going to do the whole where are we going, what are we doing, all that stuff, because I don't really have much except, okay, so y'all know how it seems like for 21 episodes, I've been telling you guys we're going to Arizona. We literally planned our trip to Arizona, completely changed our mind. We're going to LA instead at the end of the month. And that's just that. I don't know what else to say about it. There's no excuse for why we haven't been to Arizona yet, other than it just doesn't feel right to me right now. And maybe at some point it will feel right, but right now it doesn't feel right. And going to LA just feels right to me right now. And so that's where we're going. We're going to spend a couple days there. We're just going to enjoy it. I'm really excited. I used to live there from 2 to about 9 years old. And then we moved to Texas with my grandparents. I'm not saying it's like I'm going back home. It's not like that. I don't really have that deep of a connection to California. I have a much deeper connection to Texas. But I am excited to go back and visit a place that I lived some of my life. I haven't been back since I was a teenager, like a very young teenager, because one of my best friends had her birthday in California. It was me, another one of our friends, her, like the birthday girl, and her mom, and we went to California and spent, I think, like 4 days there and really had a blast. And so that was the last time I've been, and I'm really just excited to go back. So that concludes where am I going, what am I doing, because I really want to get into this episode, and I think that this episode is something that you guys are wanting right now, because I shared in my story my morning routine, and a lot of you guys had questions about it and like how it shaped me and how it's changed me and what it means to me, and asking me to go deeper into the things that I listed out. And so I figured this would be a really good time for an episode on that, because we're kind of in this phase where things are changing a lot for me because I stopped drinking and I just feel really connected to my body. I feel really connected to my relationships, and I feel really connected to what feels good to me and what doesn't. And so I've established this morning routine that feels really, really good to me and sets me off on the right foot, because a lot of times I was seeing people's morning routines and they were saying, this is the best thing that's ever happened. And I was like, I've never had a morning routine like that. I've never had something that has shaped me like that. I don't know what y'all are talking about. And even if I was doing somebody else's morning routine to try to get to that feeling that they said they had, it always felt flat to me and it never felt completely like mine. And so now I have this morning routine that feels 100% mine, that has really been great for me. And so the purpose of me sharing this morning routine for you isn't for you to do step by step everything that I'm doing, because that might not feel right to you. And even if you do it and that is good for you, I love that. But I'm not encouraging you to do everything that I'm saying that I'm doing just because I'm saying it. I want you to pick out the things that you think would actually benefit you in some way and leave behind the things that won't benefit you. So let's get into it. So I think that I told you guys in past episodes that when I was working my last corporate job, I was waking up at like 7:50 a.m. and sitting down at my computer at 8 a.m. So I was squeezing in everything from my skincare to coffee to walking the dogs and feeding the dogs, all of that into 10 minutes. And then I would sometimes sometimes start work late, or I would sometimes just feel really disheveled. It was really bad for me. And there were a couple reasons why I couldn't get myself to wake up earlier. One was just the raging anxiety that I felt all the time about everything that I had to get done. I was juggling corporate, and I was also juggling full-time content creation and just like my personal life. And there was so much going on every day that I felt like I never had a second to breathe or really a second to just fully rest. And so I was waking up with a lot of anxiety, which caused me to not want to wake up and get out of bed. And I was just chronically tired. I was so tired. I felt so disconnected from my body. I felt so disconnected from what was best for me. I felt so disconnected from a lot of the people around me. It was just really a tough time towards the end there. And so my morning routine was just non-existent. I didn't even think about what a morning routine would look like. I was like, what do you mean a morning routine? I'm rolling out of bed and rolling to my desk, and I am trying my best to keep my eyes open and stay awake for the first 2 hours of my day. I don't even want you to tell me about a morning routine. And when I would see people's morning routines on Instagram, or, they were really big on TikTok and Reels for a while, when I would watch those, I was like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? Like, how do y'all have the time? How do y'all have the energy? And I think that part of that was just a lot of envy that I was feeling, because it seemed like everybody else had it together and I didn't have it together. And part of my job was looking like I had it more together than I did. And so even though that's not something you guys have ever asked of me, I think it's just this pressure I put on myself, just feeling head underwater and having a really hard time with it. And so as I left my corporate job, I was thinking, what does a morning routine look like? What do I want to do? I made a couple of vlogs about it. I talked about it a little bit, but still nothing really felt right to me, because like I was just mentioning, I was trying to look at other people's morning routines and make their entire routine just my own. And it fell flat because it wasn't really what I needed at the time. Little did I know when I first left my corporate job, what I needed was just a lot of rest. I needed to reconnect with myself, and I needed peace, and I needed to not try to force myself into a schedule and into structure. I know a lot of people say when they first leave their corporate jobs and go into full-time content or just entrepreneurship in any way, it doesn't even have to be content. It could be whatever you're doing where you work for yourself, that they wish they had more structure and more of a schedule. And so I tried to do that. I tried to have more structure and more of a schedule, and it didn't work for me because I was burnt out and I was exhausted. At that point, I was like, fuck a schedule. I don't want one. But I was pushing, and then it just caused me to feel more burnout and more frustration. And so I just stopped. Once again, I just completely stopped having a routine. And so my mornings were just like so unguided and unstructured. And while that was good for me in some ways, I kind of felt like I had more opportunity to rest. I had time to take slow mornings, and I would get to my computer and I would feel a little bit more rejuvenated. I wasn't doing anything in the morning that I was actually using to pour into myself or connect with myself and be intentional with my morning time, the first hour, 2 hours of my day. I wasn't doing any of that. I was waking up, I was scrolling on my phone, I was going outside for a couple minutes to walk the dogs, I was coming back in, I was making coffee, I was scrolling on my phone, I wasn't drinking water, I was barely doing my morning skincare routine. I was just very lax with myself. And I thought that maybe that's what I needed. Turns out that wasn't what I needed. And I really do applaud myself though for giving myself the room to try things and to remove things when I realized they weren't right, and add things in to see if they could be right, and allow the things that were right to stick. And so I, up until recently, have just been kind of trying a couple different things, whatever, a little bit of meditation here, do that for a couple weeks, leave it. I would do a little bit of yoga there. Maybe I would try a morning spin class, whatever, but nothing really was sticking until a couple of weeks ago. This all happened around when I stopped drinking. I think that when I stopped drinking, so much of my brain woke up and so much of my connection with my body came back, and I was able to really tap into what felt good and what was worth doing, and then leave behind things that weren't worth doing. I had realized that drinking had such a big impact on my week, not even just my weekend, not even just Sundays. It was having a big impact on my week, because I felt like I had spent the whole week trying to get it together, and then I would spend the weekend doing whatever I wanted, eating whatever I wanted, drinking whatever I wanted, saying whatever I wanted, being wherever I wanted. And I thought that's what freedom looked like, but little did I know that wasn't actually freedom. That was me just trying to fill the void of connection with myself by doing what I thought everybody else was doing. I'm reading this book. This isn't really even the point. I'm going to do a whole episode on my not drinking, but I'm reading this book right now, Drinking Games by Sarah Levy. I think I told you guys about it last week. Very, very good book. But she's saying at this chapter that I just read, being down is not a personality trait. And up until a couple of weeks ago, 24 days ago to be exact, I was just perpetually down. Whatever everybody wanted to do, I was going to do, because I wanted to be fun, and I wanted to be cool, and I wanted to spend time with my friends, and I wanted to meet new people, and I wanted whatever. I wanted to do all of these things, and I didn't realize how it was affecting me. And I thought that was freedom, just the ability to do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. And that sounded good to me. And so that's what I was doing. And then my weeks would start and I would feel so off track because I didn't feel very good, because I drank so much alcohol and ate so much food that like doesn't agree with my body. And I was catching up on sleep because I wasn't sleeping as much as I should have. And I was just feeling kind of disheveled because I was like, wait, where did the time go? Like there was stuff I wanted to get done this weekend that I just didn't get done. And so I was just all over the place. And so Monday through like Wednesday, I was playing catch up. And then Thursday, Friday, I was squeezing everything in and that should have been done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so it was just this cycle of, catching up and slowing down and speeding up and running around. And it was way too much for me. And I didn't really feel great about it, but I didn't even know yet that that's not what I was supposed to be doing. I didn't realize yet. And the big thing that I had to take out of that routine was the alcohol. And then back onto the morning routine, that's when I felt refreshed and that's when I felt connected. I would wake up with this really clear head and a lot of energy. And then I started looking at the stats of my Oura Ring. You guys ask about it sometimes, and I'll talk more about that probably on like TikTok and Reels because I've been getting more and more questions about it. But I would check the stats of my Oura Ring and I was really tuned in to what it was saying. And I realized that my circadian rhythm actually works better when I'm going to sleep earlier and waking up earlier. And which is something that I knew, but I always knew that going to sleep earlier was better for me, but I wasn't really waking up super early because like I said, I was having anxiety, I was stressed out, I couldn't get out of bed, I was tired, whatever. And so when I looked at that, it really reaffirmed what I was feeling, that I am really a go to sleep early, wake up early kind of person. And that said, since I've been doing that, when I wake up, I don't feel like I should have slept longer, and I don't feel drowsy, and I don't feel groggy. I feel rested because I'm going to bed around 10 to 10:30 p.m. and I'm waking up at about 6:30 a.m. and that feels really, really good to me. And so because I'm waking up rested and because I'm waking up energized and ready to start my day, I can then actually put energy into having a morning routine. Because do you see how it's really impossible to put energy into having a morning routine when you're not waking up with any energy? And I think that a lot of us are just thinking, okay, well, 8 hours, whatever, however I get it is what it's going to be fine. But paying attention to the natural rhythms of your body is what's going to make those 8 hours or 6 hours, 7 hours feel actually restful and good for you and give your body what it needs, rather than just saying, okay, I'm going to sleep at midnight, waking up at 8. Like maybe that doesn't actually feel good to you and it's time to reevaluate that. So I've been waking up at 6:30 and the very first thing I do is get direct sunshine on my face. I step on my patio, I get just like a couple of seconds of direct sunshine on my face. I, greet the day, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Then I go inside and I take care of the dogs. So this is feeding them, this is walking them, this is spending a little bit of time with them. It's, me and the dogs time and making them feel good and loved and fed. And, they have all of their needs met. So then I can turn that and then focus on myself, because I found it. And if you have dogs or any animal that like requires your time and care, or a person, if you have a child, I'm sure you understand this, but if you neglect them to take care of yourself the whole time you're taking care of yourself, you're thinking about them, or they're, coming to paw at you, or they're whining, or they're barking, whatever, or if it's a human baby, they're crying, and it's really that hard thing, because it's like I want to focus all of my time, my energy on myself first, because if I'm right, then I can get everything else right. But I think that when you're actually taking care of something else that's alive, you really can't just do that. Like my morning routine that I'm about to share with you guys is about an hour and a half, and I can't tell my dogs fuck off for an hour and a half, nor do I want to. So that explains why I do my little second of sunshine, and then I take care of the dogs and I come back in and I'm ready to hop into it. And so this is when I go outside on my patio and I do breath work first. I was listening to a podcast a while ago where the host was saying that her doctor says that breath work in the morning is like clearing the cobwebs off your brain. And I'd never even thought about breath work really. I never really felt very drawn to it, but I heard that and I was like, okay, maybe let me try it out. So I downloaded the app Open because I saw one of my friends, Elizabeth, posted about Open, and she always has the best recommendations for wellness. So I was watching her stories. I saw that she linked Open. I tapped on it and I was like, okay, let me download this. Let me see what it is. And then it sat just on my phone for a couple of days. I didn't really open the app. I didn't really look at it. I was like, okay, I'll get to that when I get to it. And then one afternoon, I was sitting on my couch and I was just kind of feeling like really pent up energy that I didn't really know how to release. I didn't need to cry, and I'd already done my movement practice of the day. So I just kind of felt like stuck energy. And so I was like, let me maybe try this breathwork thing out. I did the introductory breathwork session, and I felt something I had never felt before in my life. This sense of release and peace and calm, but also energy at the same time. It was incredible. It was something that I truly did not know could happen from a breathing technique. And so that's when I started introducing it to my life. And so in the morning, I do my breath work first, and that usually takes 5 to 7 minutes, depending on the one that I choose. And then I go into my meditation. And my meditation, I try to make it between 12 and 20 minutes, something like that. It usually skews about 15 to 20. And so that way I'm getting about 25 minutes out in the sun. And so I sit on my patio facing the sun, do my breath work, do my meditation, and the energy that I get from the sun, and maybe it's going to sound woo-woo, or maybe you'll like, no, it's science. It really is science. But the energy that I get from the sun sends like these vibrations through me, and I feel so energized and I feel so ready to tackle the day. 20 to 25 minutes in the sun has done more for me than Wellbutrin ever has. Love you, Wellbutrin. Thanks for the help. But my God, have you heard of sunshine? And I'm this is a joke. This is a joke. The reason that I'm able to like live normally and function well is because of the medicine that I'm on. My medicine makes it possible for me to even get out of bed. And so I'm very thankful for the medicine. I'm just also saying I didn't realize what sunshine and breath work and meditation could do for me. And I'll do my time in the sun, and I come in, and this is when I'll make my matcha or my coffee or whatever it is that I'm drinking for the morning. I've been leaning matcha lately, and mostly because I need to descale my coffee machine. Let me say that. I need to descale the espresso machine. I got it and I haven't descaled it once, and I realized it was time to descale it because I was trying to pull this decaf shot, and no matter what I was doing, I could not pull it right. And then I was doing some research on it, and everybody online was like, descale your fucking machine. And so yeah, I need to descale my machine, but I don't feel like doing that most of the time, so I've just been making matcha. So I'll make my matcha, I'll drink my water, and then this is when I'll take my meds. So this is when I'll take my like allergy meds, my day-to-day meds, my probiotic, my women's vitamin, my Adderall, whatever is on the medical concoction list. That's what I'm going to take. So I'm taking all of my meds, and I like to take my meds after I do my breath work and meditation, just because I like to feel connected to my body without the influence of anything else. And I know that maybe that sounds kind of weird, but like it feels better for me to do that. That's just what feels good to me. So that's what I do. So then I'll come inside and I do my ice roller and my skincare. And I like doing my ice roller after I've sat in the sun, just because it gives my face this really cooled effect, and I feel just kind of like tapped into that. So I do my ice roller, and then I do my skincare, because I usually don't put on makeup until later in the day, as we'll get into. So then I'll look at my calendar for the day and I'll see what's going on. So either I have stuff to submit for brands or something to film, or I need to think about the organic post that I'm going to get live that day, responding to my manager's messages, all that stuff. So I'll look at what's going on in the day, and then I'll make a list. And the to-do list just helps me clear my brain so I can get back to focusing on my morning routine and the next step there. And I'm not just constantly thinking, okay, what's that work thing that I am going to forget, or what's that thing that I need to go to, or where do I need to be next? So I just write it all down, and then it's out on paper, and I don't have to think about it. Then a new addition has been my red light therapy mask. This is still so new, and so I don't want to recommend it or, give any insight on it because I don't know yet. But I was doing some research, and people were saying that they loved it for the benefits. And so if you want to know the benefits of it, then I would suggest doing your own research. I obviously, when I see that it works for me and I see the value in it, then I'll share more about it. But I don't want to just tell you to go out and get it because I have it. Like, that's so silly. So if you're interested in it, I would do some research on it. But I have been liking it. I just put it on, and it's a 10-minute timer. And so it just goes on, and that's when I will look at my to-do list, or that's when I'll tidy up the kitchen in the apartment, whatever, because usually my kitchen gets a little bit messy after I feed the dogs breakfast and I make my coffee and my matcha or whatever, and there's just things to wipe down. So I'll walk around the apartment doing my red light therapy. And then at this point, it is about 7:30 a.m. And that's when I will sit down and do like gratitude, or I'll just rest for a second, or I'll look at social media, because I try not to look at social media before this time of day. I like to really connect with myself and connect with just the outdoors before I look at my phone, because I have this full belief that we need to be in our lives before we're in someone else's, because that is what leads to comparison. I think that if you wake up and you immediately start scrolling and you're seeing somebody else's morning routine, somebody else's day in my life, somebody else's what I eat in a day, somebody else's outfit, outfit of the day, you're just constantly like, okay, well, where am I falling flat? How are they doing that? And I'm not doing that. How do they look like that? And I don't look like that, whatever. It just is a really easy path to comparison. And so I try not to do it. I try to connect with myself in my life before I connect with anybody else in their life. If you struggle really heavily with comparison, then that is the number one thing that I'm going to suggest right now. Being in your life before you're in somebody else's life, because somebody else's life that you're observing through a screen has been filmed and edited and cut here and moved there and shifted around there and made to look beautiful, because that is their job, that is their hobby, that is their fun, and that's what they're doing for various reasons. But that does not mean it is actual real day-to-day life. Because if I uploaded a video of my morning without any edits, without any cuts, you guys would be like, what is going on? Like, what is going on? Because I'm living, I'm not working in that moment. I'm not filming in that moment for public consumption. So that's my biggest advice. Get connected with you before you're connecting with them, because we don't really know them. We don't really know what their life looks like. We are watching them through a screen. And while that's entertaining and that's fun, that is not how we should be spending the first couple of moments of our day, really the first hour of our day. So after I do all of the stuff, that's when I'll scroll online. That's when I'll check my notifications, whatever. I try actually not to really scroll. I just check my notifications, see if there's anything pressing that I need to reply to, and then I'll log off and keep doing my thing. So after this is when I get ready to walk to Pilates. My Pilates studio is pretty close to my apartment, and so I used to drive, and then I was looking at the map one day and I was like, wait, that's actually so much closer than I think, and that would feel so good if I get outside and do this mile walk or whatever and just see how that feels. And so one day I just decided I'm gonna walk. So I started walking, and that has been so good for not only my mental clarity, but waking my body up. And then I go into Pilates already feeling warm and stretched because I just did a mile-long walk. So I feel so much better and so much stronger and so much more connected to my practice because I've already woken my body up. So then I do Pilates, and Pilates is a 50-minute class, so nothing too crazy, but a good amount. And classes lately have been challenging. So I don't know. I'm thankful for it. I love it, but oh my God. And then I'll walk back home. And on the walk there and on the walk home, that's when I'll listen to a podcast. I've been listening to the Blonde Files lately, and I'm enjoying it. I think it's a good show, but I'm not really that deep into it. I've just been kind of picking out episodes that I like. So I've been enjoying that. And then I listened to a couple episodes of Armchair Expert because there were some guests on there that I wanted to listen to. And so I listened to the James Doty episode because he was on the Blonde Files, and I really wanted more of him. And so I saw that he was on Armchair Experts. So I listened to that one. And then I'm still working my way right now through the Amy Poehler episode. I am a big fan of Amy Poehler. And so I just wanted to get to know her a little bit more, or get to know what she's willing to share a little bit more. So I've been listening to that episode, but it's 2 hours long. And so it's been taking me a little bit because my walks there and back are only about 25 minutes. So then I come home, and this is when I'll kind of get ready for the day. So I'll shower, I'll eat breakfast, I'll sit down and start actually working. And that's kind of what my morning routine looks like. You notice that I don't start working, actually working, until I have really fully taken care of myself and tapped in with myself. That said, when I'm sharing this, I want you guys to remember that my full-time job is influencing. And so I make a lot of my own schedule. There's some things that get put on my schedule that I can't control, but for the most part, I make my own schedule. So I can have an hour and 45-minute morning routine, and then start working a little bit later, and then work later into the day should I need to. So I'm telling you guys this to not pull my exact morning routine and feel like you need to do this, and then in order to do it, you need to wake up at 4 a.m. That is not at all what I'm recommending, because some of these things that I'm recommending, or some of these things that I'm doing, you don't really need to do. They are not going to benefit you in any way. Maybe you don't need to do an hour-long walk every single day. Maybe you don't need to go to Pilates, weekday mornings. Maybe you don't need to sit in the sun and do your meditations. Maybe you could do your meditations while you're doing your makeup. There's tons of those out there, like meditations for cooking, meditations for driving, whatever it may be. You can kind of stack things to make it fit into your lifestyle. But the key thing that I want you guys to look at is your circadian rhythm, and see if you're actually sleeping in a time that makes sense for your circadian rhythm. Because since I go to bed and do my nighttime routine, which I can do another episode on nighttime routines if you guys are interested in that, since I've reset my circadian rhythm, I find that I kind of want to naturally wake when the sun starts to wake, and I want to sleep when the sun starts to set. So obviously if the sun starts rising at 5:30, I'm not waking up at 5:30 6:30, but around 6:30 is when my body naturally wants to wake up. Around 8:45, 9 p.m., that's when my body starts entering wind down mode. Whatever in there sounds like something you want to implement and something you want to do, just make it your own. I'm sharing this not to say that you need to do everything that I'm doing in the order that I'm doing it, but to remind you the power that you actually do have over your mornings and the power that you have to set your day off on the right foot. I can't express fully what it means to my body and what it means to my mental clarity to sit on the patio and get that 25 minutes of sunlight directly on my face. I can't even walking the dogs doesn't give me that same feeling, because when I'm walking the dogs, I'm not focused on myself. I'm focused on the dogs, making sure they're good. But when I have that time really to myself to really engage with the sunlight, engage with myself, it makes me feel so much more ready to continue on and engage with other people. So that's the morning routine that has been shaping me and changing me and making me feel so connected to myself and so in line with myself, and just really thankful for every moment that I get to do it. I really am so thankful that I get to have a morning routine that looks like that. The number one thing that I recommend, if you take away anything from this episode, is time in the sun. The next thing that I really recommend is doing that breath work and meditation practice. I know that breath work and meditation can feel like a little spooky. It's I don't even know where to begin. I don't want to sit with my thoughts in silence, and you don't have to. There's so many apps. There's Open, like I was telling you guys about. There's Calm. There's Superhuman. There are so many different apps that guide you through things. The thing that I love about Open, though, is that it has breath work, meditation, and then it has some movement flows. So you can do Pilates, you can do yoga, you can do core work, all of that stuff. So I think it's more worth the price because you get a lot out of it. But no matter which one you choose, you can't go wrong. And there's free ones out there. You can literally just get on YouTube if you want to. But that's my morning routine, and I love it, and I'm going to be sticking with it. And of course, if I add things or take things away, then I'll talk more about it as that occurs. But I feel really, really good and feel really connected and just feel like I'm doing what I should be doing in the morning. And because I feel like I'm doing what I should be doing in the morning, that sets me up for a better late morning and a better afternoon, and then all the way into a better evening. I just feel like I'm starting the day truly on a right foot. So you have to figure out what works for you and then be deeply committed to doing that. You can't be more committed to work than you are to yourself. You can't be more committed to other people than you are to yourself. The way that you are so afraid of letting other people down and so afraid of disappointing other people is the way that we need to feel about ourselves, but not being afraid of it, not being ashamed of not taking care of ourselves, but caring for ourselves so much that our commitment to ourselves is above all else, and we make sure we're on the right foot with us before we try to get on the right foot with other people. Thank you for tuning into this episode. I hope you can take something from it. And as always, I will see you all around the other social medias, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You know where to find me. It's all in the box below. And I will see you here next Sunday. I love you so much, and I'm on your side.